All right, today we've got a very serious subject that is very close to my heart because I have done it the wrong way so many times. In fact, I will say 16 times because I've been to 16 detoxes when I was trying to quit drinking. So, the point of today's video will be for those who are new to sobriety, uh, what you must do in order to stay sober. And I'm not going to say what you must do, but because it's what I must do. Everybody is different, and different things are going to work for different people. For instance, AA works for 8% of the people. The 12 steps of AA work for not 12, 8% of the people. It fails 92% of the times, but you're not going to hear that stat in any AA meeting. Although then that's why I continued to go for them so long. I didn't know what a high failure ratio it had. So, but no matter what, this is what kind of I'm going to show you a chart and explain it to you and tell you what's necessary if you're the type of drunk like myself who has to start getting better. If I'm going to stay sober, there's got to be an approach to start getting better, to start separate from those things that make you want to drink. So I'm going to share this screen and explain this graph to you. All right, and down here we have number of months sober. And this is kind of always the path that it went for me. And over on this side is kind of like the resistance I built up to, gonna put my beautiful face over there to get it out of the way. Over here we have the kind of our resistance to alcohol. Like how much willpower do we have to not drink? And willpower is basically not a great way to stop drinking, but how can we and basically once we overcome this once we drop below this resistance line, that's when we give up. We throw in the towel and start to drink. And so there's three lines here. And once you quit drinking, once you're new to sobriety, when you were the type of alcoholic like I am, or any type of alcoholic that, especially one that had to go to a detox of some sort, we have this kind of desperation because we want so much not to go back to that place. That place, like for me, like when I pick up, I start drinking vodka 24/7. Oh, not all 24 hours because I passed out for quite a lot of them, but all waking hours, right? So it's a horrible place to be. It pretty much, I've gotten to my last relapse was at the age of 43, and I was old enough and damaged my body enough that within 2 weeks of drinking like that, I was close to the edge of death. And I had to maintain just enough clarity in my head saying, oh my gosh, I got to get out of this to check myself into a detox unit where they put me behind bars for 5 to 7 days so that I can't go get alcohol. So that I get my head just straight enough so that I can come back out into the world and try again not to drink. And so this is kind of like day one. Once you leave that once I leave that detox center, where I have this desperation that I remember it so well that I do not want to go back to that place. And down here we have months, but as the months pass, that desperation, we kind of start to forget about it and we start to romanticize, oh, alcohol, I can do it this time. This time I'll figure out how to just go out and party one night and then not pick up again the next day, or just to have a couple glasses of wine, or just to only drink when I'm on vacation, or just only drink after 8 o'clock, only have two glasses, only have beer, whatever trick it was, whatever trick starts coming up. Because the desperation, I forget how freaking horrible it is every single time. So the desperation starts to fade. Okay, but here on the other side, you have to be doing something that counters that desperation because that desperation is going to fade. So you have to start to recover, rehabilitate. And for me, rehabilitation means separation from those thoughts, those emotions, those toxic thoughts and emotions that lead to the toxic behavior of drinking. So that's just the term I use is separation rather than recovery. It just makes more sense to me because I see myself the voice in my head that wants to drink as a separate voice than me altogether, and I want to separate from it. That's what recovery is to me, and it's different for some people. But I tried all the other things. Um, and they didn't work. So separation is the key for me to stop drinking. And so, but basically, if I don't start working on separation while the desperation is sinking and we fall below five and I'm not healthy enough, separated enough from the crazy, then I'm drunk. And all of this goes away. Separation stops to grow because I'm drinking, boom, rock bottom. So if there's any yellow in this chart, I'm screwed. Okay, so let's talk about that. How do we ensure that there's no yellow? Okay, and so let me just explain the separation that I'm talking about. That was so critical to me. And so this is kind of what I see what a normal person is like. They kind of think that all their, I don't know if there actually is any normal people where all the thoughts in their head are in coordination. They don't have like contradictory voices going on in their head. But for me, I had crazy ass contradictory voices. Over here, this would be me where I'd be like, I don't want to drink again. That's no good for me. It's gonna kill me. I end up miserable after one night of fun, 2 weeks of drunken misery where I can't even get happy enough to reach that point of oblivion before I go into a blackout phase where I'm killing every single organ in my body. And it's ringing. That's not really, it's just an alarm. Don't mean to ignore you. But back to you. All right, so that's me. That's like I never want to drink again. Please don't ever let me drink again. Kind of involves that. But then there's this other voice inside my head that started like, "You're a piece of crap. Drink. You're no good. Drink. You can't do this. Drink. You're scared of this. You can't handle this. Drink, 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 drink." And that's my crazy. And that's the thing that I needed to separate from. I didn't know that like when I was originally like so I didn't look at things in that way, but when I started looking things in that way, things started to get better for me. And so let's go on. So the secret, obviously, is to separate from this guy, right? This whatever voice that is. If it's you and you believe that voice is also you, you're gonna end up drinking because you have this voice that is yourself. Drink, it's yelling to drink so loudly and it keeps on yelling until you have that drink. You're going to give in because willpower is an infinite is a finite resource and it will give out. So when you believe that voice is you, you are going to drink. So for me, I had to separate from that, but I never knew how to do that. I knew like in the 12 steps, they don't really go with this approach. It's more like you say, I can no longer manage my life, and I haven't even looked at the 12 steps and so on, but I can no longer, I've lost manageability and the ability I've become powerless over alcohol, right? So basically it just says, hey, you are that voice and then you've got to turn to a higher power and the higher power comes in and takes away your ability to drink. I got nothing against the higher power. That pattern just didn't work for me. And I really tried hard. Rather, I had to figure out a way to say, hey, I'm the one voice. I'm the voice that says I'm not never going to drink inside me, and there's something else that does want to drink. So what is that something? And that's when I came up with a new approach that worked for me because cognitive behavioral therapy kind of uses this approach where it says a lot of your thoughts and your emotions are distorted. They're way out of whack. They're not in touch with what normal thing is. But with cognitive behavioral therapy, you've got to go to a therapist. And for me, I was doing that 1 hour a week. And that was not enough. That line of separation would not go fast enough with 1 hour a week. So I've created an approach where we can all start to separate together by working on this IC solution approach. What is the IC solution, you ask? Well, first let's talk about what the IC is. And the IC is your instinctual core. And we look at this as this is you, your conscious. You are no longer everything that's going on inside your head, all the voices. This is you, your consciousness using your conscious brain. This is your subconscious, right? And this is filled up with a whole bunch of beliefs and thoughts and random shooting emotions and whatnot. But what filled it up? What put it there? And you'll find with what I've created here is that oftentimes it's the instinctual core. And the instinctual core, some kind of refer to this as your primitive reactive brain. But when you use the term brain, it kind of means your brain, that it's still part of who you are. I want you to start looking at it as the instinctual core that is an entirely separate intelligence that just happens to exist inside your head. It's like a spider weaseled its way into your brain and is trying to control you and it's trying to hijack you. Because and so what the instinctual core is, it's a culmination of all your survival instincts that uses this subconscious brain, this very fast, powerful, but dumb brain to make the decisions for you. And why would we want to separate from the thing that's made up of our survival instincts? Because all the things it's doing, all the survival did helped us survive through the prehistoric times, the Stone Ages, caveman times. Everything it's doing today, not everything, 99% of what it's doing today is totally counterproductive, and it leads us to try to attain what it believes to be necessary survival traits, whether it be the poisonous foods out there, drugs, alcohol, and it leads us to terrible actions that we don't want that are causing us trouble. And also, it's sending us a bunch of thoughts that both toxic thoughts and toxic emotions. So, with the IC solution, we can start to. I've created what we call the IC User's Guide, and you can start to see when you break this down all the reasons that it starts to freak out because it's not only like avoiding immediate threats; it's avoiding any threats that would be coming now, uh, today, tonight, in the next week or two. But that's the world it lived in prehistoric world. It just made sure you had basically a place to sleep tonight, maybe food for the winter. But now we've got these that we're bombarded with thousands of treats that we're told we need to survive, and we're bombarded with thousands of things we need to do, and we're bombarded with thousands of threats. We're we're constantly hit with fear, hate, and anger from the news media, and we're constantly hit with threats of like this social hierarchy that we need to try and achieve to get to the top of. And that was great when our tribe consisted of about 100 instead of 8 billion people. And that was great when our entire world was about 100 square miles instead of basically global. And that was great when the threats were real. The threats were actually could get us killed today or in the next week or two. But that's not the way it is anymore. But the instinctual core has not stopped sending us a constant barrage of fear, anger, hate, sadness, stress, cravings, demands, and judgments to get away from these what it perceives to be threats that are not threats at all. So this is what I kind of see how my life was being run when I was not separate from that voice inside of me. I was being totally hijacked by the instinctual core. But then I started to realize it's the instinctual core that's putting not all this bullshit inside my head. I didn't put the addiction there. I didn't put the anxiety there. I didn't put all the thoughts of I'm not good enough, I can't handle this there, but something did, and I can show you logically how the instinctual core puts all that there. So what the IC solution teaches you is to start to learn how to separate from it and just dissect what it's doing and basically start to treat it like a puppy that needs to be trained. Say, thank you, puppy. I see that you're trying to get me to drink because you think that's going to help me to survive. But we're not doing that anymore. And you really act like it's a totally separate thing, and it's a miracle for me. It like I tried so desperately to quit drinking for 8 entire years and made no progress. Never got more than 6 months. Always ended up in a loony bin. And then finally, when I started forming the foundations of this, I was able to separate from it and see that voice as separate from me. And I was able to start working on these upper levels of human happiness, intrigue, appreciation, engagement, self improvement, purpose. Anything you put before me, I could work here instead of being forced to work through here. And when you do work through here, you're much happier, but you're also handling all these needs that the instinctual core is trying to handle for you much more effectively, much more productively, and in a much greater state of comfort and happiness. So that brings us back to our good old chart. With the IC solution, like so cognitive behavioral therapy, my separation wouldn't go quick enough. The 12 steps there, I never had separation because my God, the God of my understanding never came to help me separate. But with the IC solution, and it actually happened a lot quicker than this, It was within 3 weeks once I figured out the first foundations where the separation just happened so quickly and never did the valley of drunk cross below the threshold line. I didn't drink that time, and I haven't had a drink in 9 years. And that is awesome. I've never been happier in my life, and I no longer need that immediate gratification, that pleasure that's sent to me with the alcohol. And I understand that when there is any slight thought of alcohol, it's the instinctual core trying to get me to overcome the threats and escape the threats or attain those treats. And it just doesn't make any sense. And I don't believe a word of it. I'm never going to drink again. Thanks to the IC solution. Anyways, that's what I got for you today. I want you to like this video if this helps. I've got there's a whole bunch more videos that explains the process of going through the user's guide and how we separate and how we can talk about these things in our IC investigative meetups. It's basically what like we're all working on the same thing, investigating this thing that we have inside of us. And since you're the number one expert on yourself, you know it better than any therapist that gives you 1 hour a week that might not even remember you the next week. I'm not saying stop going to your therapist, by the way, because I'm not a therapist. I'm an engineer. I took the science and found a way for us to use it. So we could get much more work done much quicker. Continue to go to your therapist and your doctors, but start if you implement this, you might find that this is the key for you. So please like the video, subscribe to my channel. I got a bunch more stuff coming out, but just as importantly, go to instinctcenter.com. That is where you can start setting your own overriding decisions, whatever it is. You don't want to smoke, you don't want to drink, you don't want to do drugs, you want to get rid of your anxiety, you want to get your depression, you want to start something new, like get off the couch and just start participating in life. All these things, we've got it set up so you can start anything new. It's not going to work for 100% of the people, but if you've gotten the gist of this, maybe you already know that this is going to be the key that works for you finally. Because once I landed upon this, I was like so relieved because I don't know how many more drunks I had before I was dead. And I know that if I had not figured this out, I would be dead today. So I hope you come join me at the instinctcenter.com, and hop on one of the meetings and we'll be able to talk directly. That's all I got. Peace out. No, I'm going to press stop now. Peace out.